Welcome to tonight's live stream. I'm going to get started in a minute.
Hey, what if I told you that you could go from this
Okay, what's going on, Jeffrey A., Daniel Davis, Sketch Stevens? I'm going to get started right now. And tonight's live stream, I'm going to ask one critical question. We've had 10 years of YouTube, actually over 10 years of YouTube, and what have black men and black women accomplished on this social media platform? And when I take a critical examination of all of the black people on your YouTube, I don't really see much that we have really accomplished with the whole decade we've been on this platform. Now, the only few positives I see as related to this platform are guys like your Professor Black Truth who have managed to start building a B1 platform where he has managed to actually stop people like Kamala Harris from exploiting the black community with her political campaign where she thought she was going to be the next Barack Obama and use the same type of tactics that Barack Obama did. And I saw how new black media went out of their way to start waging a campaign to prevent Kamala Harris from hoodwinking and bamboozling the black community. So I have to say, Professor Black Truth did a great job with using the YouTube platform and social media overall towards preventing someone like Kamala Harris from exploiting the black community. However, outside of that, I have not seen much black men and black women have been doing with the YouTube platform over the last decade. And over the last decade, all I've really seen over this whole 10 years that I've been watching videos since about 2009 has been nothing more than a vicious cycle of bickering and arguing and going back and forth for over 10 years. So there's not been much productivity in most of black YouTube, and all we do is make the same videos over and over again, talking about no good black men, no good black women, continuing to have this gender war where black men and black women continue to regurgitate the same talking points over and over again. And some people say we need to keep making these same talking points over and over again so that the younger viewers can understand the behaviors of so called bad black men and bad black women. But as I'm starting to take a critical examination of it, this is beginning to be like the definition of insanity, where we continue to say the exact same things and then expect a different result. Because usually, once people acknowledge that there's a problem, they start working towards a solution. Unfortunately, when it comes down to black YouTube, all we do is keep talking about the problem, to avoid focusing on the solution. So most of the black YouTubers, all they usually do is talk about this gender war, this back and forth, and a lot of them are doing it just to get views, but views don't really lead to any sort of change and any sort of growth in the black community overall. I mean, if we've already now had black men come to these platforms to express the viewpoints that they couldn't express on mainstream media back in the 90s when we had people like Oprah Winfrey, Ricky Lake, and Jenny Jones, and then writers like Terry McMillan and black writers dominating the media, presenting us with this negative image of black men, then you would think black men would now, after they've now presented their case, would now start working on a course to work on taking the black community in a new direction on social media, because social media, like your YouTube, is the platform that black men had a voice on, and they could have used that voice to start setting a course for the black community now that many of the educated brothers had come out here and refuted the false narrative that your mainstream media presented, talking about no good black men. Unfortunately, a lot of these brothers didn't understand that once you have acknowledged a problem, you then have to start building momentum towards the solution. And instead, what we've gotten is most of these black people who are just on YouTube, and then over the course of 10 years, instead of us focusing on building on a solution, now that we have refuted the false narrative that black men are no good, to start focusing on building, rebuilding the black community and rebuilding the black male image. Instead, we got black men and black women getting into this gender war, and most of the times, all we've gotten in the aftermath is a whole bunch of black men's channels getting false flagged, black women's channels getting false flagged. And as a result of all of these black men and black women's channels getting false flagged, what happens is none of these channels really grow, none of these channels really make an impact, and people have to literally start rebuilding all over again, two, three, four, and five times over, and no one really benefits as related to all of the hard work that they put in on a YouTube platform. Meanwhile, you have many of these white and non-black people, when they create a YouTube channel, what they have done is go over 100,000 subscribers, and some people have gone over 200,000, 300,000, and even some people have gone up over 1 million subscribers. And some people have built a literal platform on YouTube where they can no longer have to worry about a day job. They now can go full time on YouTube and don't have to worry about any sort of money overall, because their YouTube channel is producing content that will be able to help them pay their bills, because the contents that they're making is so appealing that it appeals to a large audience. Unfortunately, when it comes down to black YouTube, we barely get any sort of YouTubers outside of, I'd say, Advise Show, who got 100,000 subs, or Mr. Superboy when he started to get 100,000 subs. Whenever we get guys who get up to that level, some crab in a bucket, jealous hearted person winds up flagging their channel and having it taken down, like in the case of Mr. Superboy 223. When he was starting to get up to the 250,000 sub mark, somebody took his channel down, and then he had to start all over again. And it's this vicious cycle that has led to us having a decade of literal stagnation here with black YouTube, because none of these black YouTube channels have really gotten up to the levels of, say, somebody like a PewDiePie or a Jenna Marbles. And many of these people, brothers and sisters who've been here ever since the beginning of YouTube, A lot of them have never gotten to see that sort of success like a PewDiePie or Jenna Marbles or many of the other YouTubers who were here in 2009, 2010, and were really here when Google started to monetize a lot of these channels. They never, not a lot of black people achieve any of that economic success because oftentimes too many black people who have or watching YouTube channels like these members of the Zero Subscribers Club or some other people they who have channels and they get jealous because you have what they perceive to be better content, go out of their way to false flag that content, have that channel taken down. And this crab in a bucket mentality has led to a complete economic stagnation as related to the entire black sector of YouTube. I mean, we should have had over the last 10 years several of these black YouTubers. These guys were at once, some of these guys had 50,000 subs. Some of these guys could have been, million sub channels, and these guys should have been making, hundreds of thousands of dollars. These guys should have never had to worry about money. Unfortunately, because black people on social media don't know how to work together and don't understand how when you tear one black man down, you tear down your own community because you're taking money and resources out of your community. You are hurting yourself because every channel of a black man who you disagree with that you flag and have taken down, what happens is you take money out of not only that man's pocket, but you take money out of your community's pocket because oftentimes if these guys were to have come up, they would have gone back to their community, especially a lot of the channels that or people really care about the black community. I believe some of those would have actually started building black owned businesses, and that could have happened if we would stop with this crab in a bucket mentality. Because again, over the last 10 years, I look at black YouTube and we really haven't built anything in the last 10 years. I mean, in the last 10 years, outside of I say Professor Black Truths, just taking down Kamala Harris and preventing Kamala Harris from coming into the presidency, we haven't really accomplished much overall with this black YouTube. And black YouTubers are just happy with the sad state of black YouTube, especially when you compare it to the rest of the YouTube world, where you have people like goths, many of the goth channels where they're getting sponsorships for clothing lines and fashion lines. You have many of the comic book channels which are now doing crowdfunding. You have lots of different sectors of YouTube, and they're turning YouTube into a business platform. But black people on YouTube are not thinking about economics. All they're thinking about is social currency. And because they sit there and think about social currency, all they're thinking about is getting into a back and forth with someone where they can win an argument with a man or a woman over 5,000 miles away, and not thinking about going out here and using YouTube as a business platform to further build a business, further expand a business, and make efforts to reach new customers, or to use it as an online marketplace to market themselves, market products that they want to sell, like I do with the SJS Direct Imprint. Whenever I do a live stream, is to sell books like the 2019 catalog books like Isis All That Glitters, which is now available in paperback and Kindle formats, Esteem Goddess Of, which is available in paperback and Kindle formats, and John Haynes' Dark Succubus, which is also available in Kindle formats. I use the YouTube platform to sell and promote books of the SJS Direct Imprint and to make people more aware of things that I'm doing. Yes, Travis, they do use it to sell toys as well. I've seen people go out of their way and they sell action figures and they get paid. Companies like Hasbro and Mattel ship people boxes of Marvel Legends so that they can do a review of them. And companies like Mezco send people toys so that they can do a review. So they're getting free toys because they're getting exposure to those toys. And again, they're using YouTube as a economic platform, but black people on YouTube don't use YouTube as an economic platform, and an economic platform that could take many of these poor brothers and sisters out of poverty, because a lot of the people who are watching a lot of these videos, a lot of these guys are struggling. Some people are watching these in the library on some of these Obama phones, and other people are watching these videos on these smartphones with Wi-Fi. And again, they're not seeing how this YouTube can be used as a business venture, because they're still caught up in the YouTube beefs, the YouTube dramas, the back and forth between black men and black women with gender war videos, the back and forth between the cooking and roasting videos, and the back and forth related to ad hominem attacks, or the type of content where black men and black women are sitting there talking about things like swirling, or they're talking about things like going overseas, or they're talking about silly stuff that really does not really help anybody overall. And over the 10 years, yes, people are entertained by that content, but the black community does not grow as a result of it. And that's why after 10 years of YouTube, you have a complete decade of people just here, and they have really nothing tangible to say that they've accomplished anything. And I think that that's very, very disturbing, because here you have this internet, one of the greatest inventions since the wheel, and you have black people who have nothing tangible to show for it, because we are crab in a bucket and we just tear each other down. We tear each other's channels down, and we have nothing to show for being on social media for the last 10 years, except a whole bunch of channels that wind up getting deleted, and a whole bunch of content that all it is the same old repetitive content from, I say, even back to 2006, where all it is black men talking about how bad black women are, black women talking about how bad black men are, black men talking about how they need to go explore their dating options elsewhere, black women talking about how they need to explore their dating options elsewhere, and everything is about sex and relationships, but nothing really is about economics, and nothing really is constructive as related to focusing on things as related to using YouTube as a platform for business. So I'm not seeing that over this decade, because if we were to have seen that over this decade, we would have seen lots of black YouTubers actually making that money from Google and the ad revenue, enough to go out here and buy themselves a nice home, buy themselves, a nice car, and actually have some money to put away for their savings. That's what black people could have had with YouTube over the last 10 years, but instead, all we have again are the ruins of deleted channels that wind up never really actualizing their potential, because black people aren't on social media to use it towards moving themselves forward. And what's really troubling again about that is most black folks don't really understand anything about the intangible of time, because all that time you're taking to make these YouTube videos, that's time out of your life that you're never going to get back. And when I think about people who spent the last 10 to 13 years on YouTube having their channels taken down and then having to rebuild their channels, that's really a lot of time that was wasted, because you spent a good amount of years building this channel. You spent a good amount of years building up these subs. You spent a good amount of years making these videos. You spend a good amount of time, and then you get no return on the time. And what's sad is most black people don't think about the return on the investment for their time. They're okay with just making these videos where they're going to go have these beefs, have these arguments, go back and forth, and they're thinking that this is a constructive use of time, but you're losing time out of your life you're never going to get back. I mean, when I make a video, I sit there and I say, this is 45 minutes to an hour and a half of my life, and I need to make sure that this 45 minutes to an hour that I use to make this video are productive minutes out of my life, and that the information I give people will allow them to grow and be enriched in that time, because time, again, is something you can't get back. And once time is gone out of your life, you have lost it. And what's sad is we've had black men and black women going back and forth for almost a decade in some cases, and they're not thinking a minute about all of that time they have wasted going back and forth with another man, making these videos, going back and forth because you disagree with their opinion and that you have an issue with someone. They're not really thinking about, hey, I just lost an hour and a half out of my life. I lost 2 hours of my life listening to this guy go back and forth. And even some of the viewers are sitting there going, hey, I just lost an hour out of my life listening to this guy talk about how much he doesn't like this guy, or listening to this guy talk about how bad black women are. I mean, this is time that could be used far more productively by someone, and it's something black men and black women aren't really thinking critically about when they get on the YouTube platform. They're not thinking about, hey, this is when I make this video, it should be something constructive. It should be something of substance, because if I'm going to take time to make this video, then it needs to be something that adds to people's lives, not something that's just there because I heard some guy disagree with me, and I'm going to keep going in this back and forth. Again, taking hours out of your life to make these videos where you're going back and forth with this person, or making these videos talking about the same talking points over and over. And that's just, again, a complete waste of your time, which is, again, is the most valuable thing on this earth as related to intangibles, because, again, time is something you can't get back. But most black YouTubers, they have not thought about all of the hours they have put in over the last 10 years, and they haven't thought about all of the work they put in over those hours over the last 10 years. They're not really thinking about, you just put in a decade of your life in having a YouTube channel that got flagged and taken down. You built another one, it got flagged and taken down. You built another one, and it got flagged and taken down. And you've spent 10 years of your life, and you've practically wasted it, and you've accomplished absolutely nothing in that time. And even worse than losing that time, somebody else made money at your expense, because once you have a channel that was monetized by your Google and it gets taken down, guess what? The new channel you make, in order for you to get that channel monetized, it's a lot harder to get that channel monetized. But meanwhile, your Google and your YouTube are still running ads on your channel, and you're not getting paid for any of those ads on that channel. So you've wasted time, and then you cost yourself money. And this is something black folks haven't really thought about as related to being on YouTube over the last 10 years. You have just killed your own economy and your opportunity to use YouTube as a platform for economic empowerment. And because you haven't thought about what YouTube could be for you, then what happens is they get rich at your expense, and then you provide free entertainment in many cases for your white supremacists, your white racists, your white nationalists, your skinheads, your Ku Klux Klan, your neo Nazis. These people get free entertainment that validates many of their ideas about black men and black women when they watch content like your gender war videos and like your videos where you're hearing these black men and black women going back and forth and only focusing on relationships and dating and focusing on sex. Because I really look at your black YouTube sector and it's like that's all many talk about. No one ever talks about art. No one talks that much about literature. I mean, is a sector where we have black comic fans, black sci-fi fans, the black goth subculture, and some makeup and hair videos. But the main thing with black YouTube primarily is it's always these beef and argument videos or this other type of dysfunctional content that people will spend 10 years of their life on and believe that this was a good use of time. Now, another issue that I have with the 10 years of YouTube that I see is again the content. And over the last 10 years, I've seen a lot of this content that really does not reflect positively on the black image. I mean, over the last 10 years, in addition to seeing the gender war videos, the beefing and arguing videos, I have seen these twerk videos, which have been up ever since the 2009, 2010 or so, these fast food restaurant fight videos, these street fight videos. I mean, it's just a nonstop sewer of, the worst type of content. And this content, it stays on the YouTube platform and it continues to remain on the YouTube platform. And I have to ask a critical question to black people. Is this how you want to be represented from a historical perspective? I mean, when people from the next 3 or 4 generations go over and look at YouTube, if it is still around, or find an archive of YouTube somewhere, and they start to take a look at it from a historical perspective, is that what you want people to see of you over when they look at the early days of the internet and say to themselves, this is what black people put on the internet, and then they compare it to what white people put on the internet and non-black people, where we see them talking about building cars, fixing computers, fixing televisions, or talking about things as related to history, talking about things as related to art and literature. When they look at their content, they're going to get one picture of the world, which will give them a look at the world. And then when they look at the black sector of YouTube, which is going to be a snapshot of the world from 2009 to 2019, that when they look at that snapshot, all you're seeing is twerk videos, beef videos, people cooking and roasting each other, men talking about how bad black women are, black women talking about how bad black men are, black women talking about how they need to explore their dating options with white, Asian, Hispanic, and non-black men. Black men talking about they need to get their passport and go overseas to pursue relationships with women overseas. I mean, when they look at those pictures, they look at it and it says that black people, when they had the internet, they did not use it for anything constructive historically. And when they look at the picture of black people, they see a people who are truly divided. Because when you look at the picture of black YouTube overall, it's a picture of black people divided and black people who clearly show a picture of serious self-hatred. And that's the picture that is being broadcast and reflected to the world. And that is going to be the defining historical statement about black people when you look at black YouTube's last 10 years. When you look at that 10 years, it's mostly, again, some of the worst content I have ever seen, outside of a few small pockets here and there where we've had brothers trying to wake people up, or people like Professor Black Truth trying to educate people, or Mr. Superboy trying to really present a picture as related to much of the racism and white supremacy going on. Outside of a small group of black YouTubers, a lot of the content is not really going to reflect well on black people historically. And what will further compound this is when people take that further critical examination of your black YouTube and they look at it from, again, that historical perspective, they will say to themselves, black people practically wasted one of the greatest resources known to man, a free platform where they could broadcast themselves. And instead of using that platform to broadcast themselves, or use that platform to build a business that would allow them to reach a new customer base, or use it as a platform to build an economy on through e-commerce, most of the black people who had that platform wasted that platform by using it to broadcast some of the worst content known to man, and present content that literally breathed brand new life into old stereotypes and reinforced old stereotypes of black people, and really regressed the black race and did not advance the black race in any way, shape, or form that was constructive. And that's what we saw when I look at, 10 years of black YouTube. I look at a lot of the content on here, and it's reflecting some of the, worst things about black people. And what's worse is, after 10 years of this content, we continue to see this content continuing to get worse instead of getting better, because you reach a point where, after you've had the black men had their say about these bad black women, that generation of bad black women, we should have been starting to focus on correcting the course. And YouTube could have been used as a point to correct that course. But instead, we have a lot of people who wanted to keep their audience, and they wanted to keep their audience by having these back and forths, and then having a lot of these people who wanted to engage in this gender war, where they continued to feud over these silly disagreements. And this feuding was some of the things that, again, does not help the black image overall. Because when you look at the black image on social media, the image of black people on social media is one of the most embarrassing ones to look at, because instead of us having a positive image out here, we have an image that literally is like a minstrel show come to life. So all they're doing most of the time is presenting, again, these loud videos where they just talk bad about either black men talking bad about black women talking bad about black men. And again, what does that accomplish, especially when you think about, again, the course of 10 years? When you think about over 10 years of somebody's life, I mean, a decade came and went. And what do we have to show for it? I mean, think about that. I really want y'all to sit down and think critically about it. You have gone over a decade here on YouTube, and people are using this platform to talk about all sorts of different subjects, educate people about different subjects, educate people. And literally, this place is like a college, and you can learn about all sorts of subjects. And I've done that over the years. But I look at the overall thing, and it's like 10 years of talking about black women, and nobody just takes a minute and says, hey, this guy just spent 10 years talking about how bad black women are, or this black woman who's talking about how bad black men are over 10 years, and has never taken a moment to say, look, I need to start focusing on what I want to do. Now that I've acknowledged this problem, I need to start focusing on the solution. Yeah, I know Netspaya that YouTube is not going anywhere, but the whole thing is that most black people are willing to spend more than 10 years arguing and going back and forth, and they're not understanding that the content that they're producing it's just a vicious circle that keeps repeating itself. It's like they just keep going and making the same content over and over and over again, and people sit there and they'll get the views, and that gives them incentive to make more content instead of saying, look, I've made my points here, now I need to move on to new points, and I need to start focusing and setting some goals to where they want to go. So you have to really focus once you've made your point. Thank you, JKM87, for the donation. Really appreciate it. That once you've acknowledged the problem, okay, black men, you've acknowledged the problem. You've said that you've had this issue with black women, okay. Now we need to start focusing on solutions. Now that we've refuted the narrative that black men are no good, what is your plan to start moving forward? And that was something that was never really addressed by your black men when they came on YouTube to say, okay, I'm an educated professional brother. Where am I going to go from here? And this is where a lot of black males got stuck when they came to YouTube, and they didn't really focus on where they wanted to go. Because when I started really focusing on my channel, I set a goal for myself. I said I wanted to use it as a platform to promote my work, like that of the SJS Direct imprint, and I wanted to use it as a platform for people to get to know me and know how I'm well versed in those topics, so that when they pick up the books, they feel confident about what I've written in books like my fiction or my nonfiction, like The Man Crisis. So when they look at my work, they can know that the person who wrote the book was well versed in the subject matter, well versed in the material, and could present cohesive arguments based on the material. So it was all about branding, and it was all about building that brand so that I could reach new customers on the platform. So when I came here, it was to set a goal for myself, and I wanted to use the platform again to increase sales of my SJS Direct books and reach new customers. And I wanted to set that goal for myself, and I further want to expand on that goal. And that's one of the things I want to do on this platform, is work towards reaching new customer bases, reaching new customers, and showing them different genres like African American fantasy, science fiction, things like African American goth fiction. I really wanted to show that there was a market for these products and reach those customers. But when I look at Black YouTube, um, over the last 10 years, they haven't really had that type of focus. I mean, when I started getting serious about this about 6 years ago, again, my goal was to increase my sales and reach those new readers. And it was also to, again, put my web presence there. So that's something I wanted to do. I can't really say much, Luciano, about that because I don't know much about, the Hispanic community. David, yeah, they don't want solutions, but how do you cope in this environment? Well, one of the ways you cope in this environment is by supporting, good, positive content, and you give that content your views, because again, your time is too precious to really waste on, this same old content that people produce, where they continue to go back and forth. Yes, it feels good, and it makes people feel good when they're hearing these people getting loud and argumentative. And it's like watching a car wreck where it's just so mesmerizing. But the whole thing is that when you're watching that type of content, again, it's having an effect on you, and it's having an effect on your perception of the world. And I've noticed that after seeing people watch over 10 years of YouTube videos, it's starting to have an effect on their perceptions about Black people. Because when I first came here, the perceptions about Black people, they were extremely positive, and you had Black men who were refuting this narrative and trying to show that there was a positive picture of Black manhood. But over the last 10 years, that whole picture has turned into one of self hatred. And there's this whole defeatism that I'm starting to see, especially with the fall of the Black manosphere as related to this YouTube. And this negativity, I'm just seeing it, and it's deeply troubling because when I see Black men saying things like there's no more Black family, that's a very troubling thing. Because if you have a Black man sitting there saying that there is no Black family, and you have a Black man saying that his own woman is so unattractive, this is really self-hate talk, and this is defeatist talk. I mean, this is like saying you have been defeated, when the original mission, again, I thought of these Black men, was to come onto YouTube to refute this narrative of no good Black men and show that there were positive brothers out here who were ready to make a stand and make an effort to improve things overall. So I thought that was the original mission. But it seems like people have gotten lost in this all of this gender war stuff, and all they're doing is sitting there talking about no good Black men, no good Black women, and sitting there being angry all the time. And the talk has gone from talking about working to move forward into this defeatism. And this defeatism is just everybody talking about how there's no Black family, there's no hope of a Black family, there's no hope for Black love, and talking about how there's no hope for Black men and Black women coming together. So if you come to this platform and you believe these things, then as I see it, you're wasting your time. Because if you don't believe in things like Black love, if you don't believe in things like the Black family, if you don't believe that the Black family can't be rebuilt, then you are just wasting your time. And it's not something that you need to be on here at all. Because if you're imbibing this type of media that's telling you that you have no hope, you're practically wasting your time. As a Black man, I believe that it is possible for Black love. I believe it's possible for Black men and Black women to love each other. And again, when I went to New York Comic Con, I saw a lot of Black families, and I just saw Black families on Instagram. So I know that there are Black families out there. I know that there's Black love out there. When you go to your Black social media, you get told that this is not possible. But I've seen Black families, and no one wants to talk about it on Black social media. And that's what makes it deeply troubling for me, because here we have a platform where we can broadcast ourselves and talk about these subjects that really would refute white supremacy's narrative of single mothers and no good baby daddies. And instead of us going out to promote our Black love, Black on Black love, Black families, and go out here and promote those type of images of ourselves on our channels and our platforms, we go out of our way to reinforce the stereotypes about the baby mamas, the ratchet women, and we give them a stage, and we've given them a stage over the last 10 years. And that's again not really constructive for Black people for 10 years of YouTube. Yeah, I know, Supremo, a lot of these guys aren't going to be saved. And yeah, you just have to let them fall. But when I look at what's going on, Wrestling Superstar 83, glad to see you here. Yeah, but over the 10 years, again, I look at 10 years of YouTube, and this is something that should have been, we should have turned this platform into a powerful place for Black people, because again, this was a free platform where Black people could broadcast themselves. And instead of us broadcasting the best of ourselves, then we go out here and, thank you, Bombor, I'm glad to do it for you, but we are broadcasted the worst of ourselves over the last 10 years. And even worse, we have absolutely nothing to show for it overall, except again, the ruins of a whole bunch of deleted websites, deleted pages, and hours of content we will never get back, and hours of time we will never get back, because some Black male who has 0 subscribers, or somebody else who is butthurt over a video that they didn't like, what they do is try to false flag channels and then have them taken down. And then what happens is, all you do is drive people off the platform. And what does that do for you? And what does that do for the Black community overall? These are things that Black people don't think about. They don't think about, hey, we just lost. If we destroy these channels, what's going to happen is we don't have anything. I mean, again, you have nothing overall. All you have is, again, the same old content, and people trying to rebuild. The people who do stay to rebuild, they can't really get any traction. And how does that help you? I mean, if PewDiePie is making millions of dollars, how does that help your community? I mean, how does that help your community? He's getting rich, but the Black YouTubers, these guys are barely struggling to pay their bills. And a lot of them, they coming on every day. And again, all it is you giving Google free money, making them money at your expense. And they never really connect that dot and say that to themselves. Oh, wait, every time they run ads on my channel and I'm not monetized, what happens is they make money at my expense and they get rich at my expense. Meanwhile, I'm just supposed to be content with my feelings about breaking a wicked diss on this guy who I'm disagreeing with, who has another channel. That's supposed to be my satisfaction. Well, as a businessman, my time is money, and I'm not going to waste time getting emotional satisfaction on a platform where you can get where people are getting economically enriched. I mean, everybody else is making money, and they're sitting there getting the money to, again, be able to take care of, have a middle class lifestyle in some cases, and some cases have money that they can build into wealth. And some people over the last 3 to 5 years have built a lot of wealth here on social media. But Black people, instead of looking for economic wealth, they're looking for, social currency, or they're looking for that dopamine hit from and getting their emotional satisfaction and getting their emotional needs met. And that's not what we should be looking for. I mean, in 10 years, all you've got to show for it is basically nothing. That's really sad when I think about a lot of Black YouTubers who aren't really thinking about the big picture as related to their channels and their platforms. I mean, you've had 10 years to present a mission, 10 years to set goals for your channel. You've had 10 years, and what do you have to show for 10 years of hard work that you put into something that cost you nothing? I mean, I even think about the blogs that I've done over the last 10 years, and I can look at many of the blogs I did over the last 10 years, and I can see from people who talk to me, they tell me how that blog transformed their life. I've gotten opportunities to do radio shows because of those blogs. I've gotten opportunities to do radio shows because of these videos. I've gotten opportunities, and again, it's supposed to be enriching you. I mean, when you invest things like your time into something like a YouTube, you should be getting some sort of payoff at the end of the day, and you should be getting something in return for all of your hard work. But many of the black YouTubers, they're not thinking about all of the effort, time, and hours they put into these videos, and they're not thinking about what they've invested into these channels. It's just all about their feelings, and it's all about getting even with the next man who they disagree with, or the next woman they disagree with. And they're not thinking about, hey, I just spent 3 to 6 months building up this channel and trying to get all of these subs, or I built up this channel with all of these hours of content, and now it's all gone, and now I have to start all over again. They're not thinking about that. All they're thinking about is, yeah, I got that Negro from wherever he was. Yeah, I got him. And what did that do for you? And that's another critical question your black people on YouTube don't understand about what they're doing over 10 years is, yeah, you got him with your feelings, but again, you also got yourself because you wasted time out of your life to try to destroy another person. And what did that do for you? Same thing with a lot of these guys who go around digging up dirt on people they disagree with, stalking people, doxing people. What does that do for you? I mean, when you ask a critical question like, where is that going to take you in 5 years? Where is that going to take you in 10 years? That's when you start to see how ridiculous this is. Thank you, Male Enlightenment TV. I had to talk about this topic because after I talked about how white supremacy won the gender war, I had to follow it up to really get people to think about, 10 years on YouTube. And we should have been turning this into a business platform and using the information superhighway to get information out here. So I looked at it and I said to myself, people ask the question, where do you want to be in 10 years? And that's something that they ask at job interviews. And that's a critical question many YouTubers need to ask. Where do you want to be in 5 years? Where do you want to be in 10 years? What do you want social media to do for you in 5 to 10 years? What do you hope for social media to do for your business and your brand in 10 years? Because you making these videos, this is a representation of you. This is a representation of your image. And this is a representation of what you want to put out here. Because again, the original mission of YouTube was to broadcast yourself. And this could have been something you could have used to lift yourself out of poverty. Unfortunately, many black men and women have turned YouTube into a proverbial ghetto, just like many of the neighborhoods many come from. And because they have turned YouTube into a proverbial ghetto, what has happened to YouTube on the black sector is it literally is like a ghetto filled with a lot of rundown channels, a lot of rundown content, and no real effort towards improving the quality of life for black people. As I see it, if you're going to make videos, they should help black people move themselves forward, and you should be using YouTube to improve the quality of life for people. Like when I would do the workplace videos, I've had many people come to me and say that information you gave me about surviving in the workplace has helped me with my career. The video I did on anxiety helped a lot of black men be able to keep their jobs. And even the one from the workplace mammy, I even had a sister just recently tell me that video helped her deal with a situation with a older woman who was looking to cause trouble. And they watch those videos and it helps them, transforms their life. And that's what a good YouTube video should do. It should be something that helps you move forward. And over the course, again, of 10 years, you should be seeing progress with the work you're putting in to what you want to do in this life. And I don't see that with a lot of the black YouTube channels out here. I don't see people moving forward in their life, making progress with their channels. Instead, all I see is a lot of this back and forth and a lot of this arguing, a lot of this bickering, a lot of this gender war stuff about no good black men and no good black women, no sort of anything as related towards working on things towards growth in the black community. And what's even more disappointing is seeing that this content is so repetitive and it's literally the same videos over and over again, repeating the same talking points over and over again. And there comes a point where you look at it and go, hey, I'm watching this. I just watched this video 5 years ago. I watched this video 2 years ago. When is this guy going to come and approach me with some fresh content? I mean, if you're going to be a content creator, and I'm a writer, and when I'm not doing videos, I do writing, I write different books, and I want my readers to have fresh content because fresh content stimulates your mind, and fresh content, it really makes you think. And that's what good, fresh content does. But on the black sector of YouTube, we don't really get a lot of fresh content. All we get is the same stale, repetitive content. And I would think over 10 years, it would be enough as related to that content. Because again, when I think about the first 10 to 15 years of YouTube on the black sector, I have not seen much growth as related to these channels. And I like to see more growth overall because we can expand. And I see some, again, some sectors like the black fantasy sector, the black sci-fi sector, the black goth sector, and the anime sector, they're making efforts to move forward. But the major part of your black YouTube, I mean, when I look at 10 years and I look at that decade, 2009, 2019, we had, again, Barack Obama as president of the United States talking about hope and change. We had 8 years of Obama and the greatest opportunity of a lifetime for black people to move forward. And instead, we had black YouTube wind up completely stagnating and then even having efforts like your black manosphere crashing and burning, all because black people are too busy in their feelings to focus on things that need to be done as related to social media. Because social media on the black side has become this cesspool, and it's, as I see it, time to really drain this swamp, this cesspool, because if we want to move forward, we have to stop creating this ridiculous back and forth content and participating in ridiculous things like these fight videos. I mean, when you see a grown man traveling thousands of miles to go fight another grown man in a video, that really is troubling because that exact same person could take that same money to start a business. So you're going to drive all the way over to one part of the country to fight a man you have a disagreement with, but you won't go to the local black-owned businesses in your community. That's a troubling point for me, just like it's also another troubling point for me with all of this obsession with these Popeyes chicken sandwiches. I mean, that was another troubling point for me because we have all of these. I'm watching videos of people going berserk in Popeyes restaurants over chicken, and that was troubling for me, because we can make a video talking about a chicken sandwich, and we can provide advertising for a chicken sandwich on social media to the point where Popeyes could save $23 million, but we can't go out and promote a black-owned business like the SJS Direct Imprint. We can empower other people, but we can't empower ourselves and enrich ourselves. So when I look at black people, hi Leah, glad to see you here. Yeah, but when I look at black people, again, to say that in 10 years this is what we have accomplished on YouTube, it's a disappointing thing for me when I look at that big picture and see 10 years pass, and the majority of videos on YouTube are not educating the young brothers and sisters or focusing on constructive solutions. We've got a bunch of, again, twerk videos, fight videos, back and forth, men cooking and roasting each other, black men, women, and black men going back and forth with each other, a whole bunch of YouTube drama, a whole bunch of black men and black women getting emotional, a whole bunch of black men and black women getting personal with each other. And this is what we are presenting of ourselves on social media as our image. And we've got a whole decade of this content right here for future generations to see. And this is going to be the picture that we're going to go out here and share with our children, our grandchildren, and even our great grandchildren. They're going to be looking at this picture, that all of these videos in the next 10, 20 to 30 years, and they're going to have that snapshot. And this is something black folks aren't really thinking about. That is this the snapshot you want to present of yourself to the world, of people, busting out car windows, people having fights in fast food restaurants, people snatching weaves out of their head? Is this the picture of black life that we want reflected to the world? Because if this is the picture some people are content with, then I have to say the black race is in deep trouble. Because if this is the picture you want presented, and you think that this should be continuing to be the picture, there is something deeply wrong here. Because I mean, again, 10 years of these pictures, and we continue to put more of these pictures out here. That's a very disturbing thing, because instead of people taking a look at that content and saying to themselves, this kind of content is embarrassing, and that I need to really take a look at myself and see, I made a fool out of myself here. Instead, some people look at that content and they're proud of it. And I'm like, how can you be proud of an image that shows you going practically berserk someplace, in like a fast food restaurant or a department store, just having a meltdown, or like that Disneyland meltdown? Or, yeah, Rabbi, yes, I would love to see the super chats get happening. Or I'd like to see people, donate to the Cash App. They can donate to the Cash App, or they can donate to the Patreon. Because, yeah, I'm trying to, again, raise, I have to pay for the internet, and I have to pay for and I'm trying to raise funds to pay for an ISIS graphic novel. And all of this, again, I use this for a business promotion. And again, I want I really look at, again, 10 years of YouTube and no real momentum towards moving anywhere, and just staying in the same place that we were back in 2009 when Obama was president. And instead of us focusing on going over and building something and having something to move forward to, we're not focusing on that. Instead, all we're doing is producing the same types of content. Again, 10 years of it, and never taking a minute to say, hey, I made that video before. Hi, Chris. Chris Brown is the writer of Omega Black. a great black manga that's on Amazon right now. You definitely want to pick that one up. And he made a really great comic, and I really want to see him get more sales for it. But there's another brother out here, Raymond Leonard. He just launched a Kickstarter, and it's Chris L. Brown. He's a writer of Omega Black, and it's great black manga. You're really gonna like it. He does a great job of setting stuff up in the first two issues, and you definitely want to pick those up. They're on Amazon right now in paperback, and they're also available on Comixology. And another brother that I picked up a comic of, Raymond Leonard, he's doing a Kickstarter for his Agent Solo comic, and he's looking to raise funds for that. So if you guys could go over to his Kickstarter and give him a donation, I would really appreciate it, because I really loved his Agent Solo comic. And his Agent Solo comic is like old school 90s comics like Jim Lee's X-Men and X-Force. And right now, Raymond, he's like a quarter of the way there. And if you guys put in a pledge, it would really help further his goal. So all he needs you guys to do is put in a donation. I mean, again, let me see what it is. All he's asking for is, like, if you can get the digital comic for $5, you can get a paper copy for $10, and that's a good deal. It's a really good deal. I put the Kickstarter link in the chat. I'm gonna put it in there once again. Raymond's Agent Solo. I'm glad to help you, Chris. I really want to see, again, more black comic creators get that exposure. So that's another thing I do in the live streams is I try to promote other brothers' products so that they can get exposure. And I do that because I just love black comics, and I want to see black creators get out here and get their products exposure, because that's how you build black owned businesses. And that's what live streams are supposed to be about. They're supposed to be about helping other black business owners get their products out there and be used to try to reach those new audiences. But many on black YouTube, they're not really thinking about, getting your product out there and reaching other, creators out there and reaching other readers out there. They're not thinking about using the platform to reach those customers like I do. I really want to see black owned businesses succeed, and I really want to see them grow. Wrestling Superstar 83. Do I believe black people lack innovation? No, I don't think black people lack innovation. I just believe that black people are afraid to be creative in some cases. And sadly, a lot of the creative people, they aren't really pushing as hard like I do. I really want to push hard, because I know that you have to push hard if you want to get any sort of success out here. And there's all sorts of innovative ideas out here. We just have to find the exposure for them, and we have to persevere towards it. So there's lots of great innovation out there. I mean, I see guys like Chris Miller. He's putting together some really innovative stuff with his Naturally Cute coloring books with Mike Williams and his Geek Sledge comic strip. There's a lot of innovation out there, but just that a lot of these brothers need exposure. And like Chris Brown, they need exposure, and they need people to give them that support. So that's one of the things I try to do with my live streams, is try to give a lot of these brothers out here and sisters out here who have comic books and sci-fi, give them a platform and an audience, in addition to giving myself a platform and an audience, because I really want to get my fiction sales up for my books. So I want people to know my books are available on Amazon. John Haynes, Dark Succubus, Isis, All That Glitters, Esteem Goddess of. These are the books for this year, and I wanted to get the sales up on those books. So I try to use it as a promotional tool, not only for my books, but I also use it for other people's work, because there's a lot of great black comics out there, and each copy that they sell, guess what? Those guys can then go on to use that money to put out the next issue, and they can go out here and then work on further promoting their product, because a lot of times these comics, they cost a lot of money to put together, but the promotion part is where a lot of brothers need help. And if I can make a video that helps more people get aware of that product, I hope it can go a long way, because we need to get that exposure, because a lot of people talk about how we need more positive images, and I'm seeing brothers out here and sisters putting together those positive images out there, and they're looking to get that image out there, but they can't get their work promoted because there's really no media platform out there that really focuses on promoting them. So that's one of the things I try to do here is give those brothers, and sisters that support, because that's something that needs to be done. Um, what are my thoughts on Miley Cyrus? I don't know, but I do know that I'm gonna do a video on that Taylor Swift one on Monday, because I saw that video, and that's more social engineering. Yeah, I know about that Devlon. I know about, yeah, they get the backlash because I've gotten it, because they talk about this whole real thing, and yeah, we get that a lot, um, because everybody has this. They want to fit into that black box that's acceptable to white people, and when you're a comic artist, they always want to talk about how it's not black enough, and the whole thing is we're going by a white supremacist definition of black instead of our own definition of black. And that's the thing that messes us up overall as black people, is that we keep trying to go by a definition of black that really is not our definition on our terms. It's a definition on white supremacy's terms. And that's what we see a lot of on your black YouTube, is a lot of black people going by that white supremacist definition of black, but we don't go by our own definition of black. And there are sectors that go and are trying to change the definition to our terms, and that's something I try to do on the SJS Direct imprint, is make our definition of black, because we need to be the darker shade of black, like I talk about in Spellbound, where we're defining our own identity on our own terms and defining who we are on our own terms, and not trying to breathe brand new life into old stereotypes like many of these sectors, black sectors of YouTube, try to do. They're just putting this gender war stuff out here and further reinforcing many of the stereotypes about black people. David, how do we not use each other? The world seems like people want to get over on each other. And yeah, that happens, but the whole thing is, after you have to look out and be aware of stuff, and you have to really think about things, because yeah, there are a lot of users out there. There are a lot of people out here who see black people as a tool, but we have to learn how to be aware of these predators and identify them. And that's something that comes with time and experience, because you don't really just jump in with everybody who makes an offer to you. So that's how you avoid getting taken advantage of. And also you try to control the terms. And that's, I would get offers, but I would just hold back and say, look, let me get a minute to think about this. Let me get a minute to read this. Because when people try to rush you into something, that's a sign that they're trying to use you. But you have to understand that it is your choice, and you have to say, look, if you don't want to give me time to think about this, then it's not a deal that I need to get into. So if somebody doesn't want to give you that time, then you need to walk away from that part of the platform. Now, when it comes down to black folks, we don't really focus too much on things, and that's one of the things we're not really thinking about. Everybody's thinking about trying to get over instead of trying to get to a point where they want to move ahead. So they're not thinking about, moving forward. They're just thinking about, I just want to get over on this guy. I want to be able to take advantage of him. And that's not what a man of character or a woman of character is going to think of doing. They're going to think about, I want to make a good deal so we can build businesses so that both of us can benefit, not me just trying to hustle for a few dollars. Because if I build a business, we're both going to profit, and I'm not going to have to hustle. I can make a living. And they're not because a hustler only thinks about the day to day, whereas a businessman is thinking about long term. And yeah, I'm definitely gonna do a video on this Taylor Swift, and I'm gonna do a video on this because that's more social engineering, and it's more It's more mind games. So that's what they want to do. This, like, they want to put these mind games and make you believe that someone like Taylor Swift was never dated a black man. This is someone who is actually interested in black men. And that's what they wanted you to believe, but it's not true at all. What they want to do is socially engineer ideas because okay, we got a couple of trolls. Every time I put together intelligent videos like the like the intelligent live streams, we get the trolls. So every time I do intelligent live stream, I get the trolls. But when I do the other ones, nobody shows up. It's like when I do ones talking about the crowdfunding, they disappear. People disappear. And when I do the ones about books, it becomes a ghost town. So it's like, but the whole thing is, again, I look at this decade of, yeah, I heard about that Disney Plus. I might do a video on it, but it looks like we're getting the SJW MCU. What Taylor Swift is doing, Mr. 08, is just using black people because she's not as popular as she used to be, and she's trying to bait black people, and she's trying to bait black people into thinking black people are that are interested in her, and that's something that they're trying to do. So it's just a hustle that she's trying to pull. But I'm going to get back to the topic of 10 years of YouTube. I got 15 more. I'm going to wrap it up in about 15 minutes. I have a video on Gillette coming up tomorrow morning at 5 a.m. So, but again, I look at the 10 years of YouTube and I have to ask a lot of the black YouTubers, what are you doing? And because you've been here for 10 years in many cases, some of you have actually been here longer than that. And what have you accomplished in 10 years? Thank you, Resurrection of Kenneth Thomas, Grandmaster Troll, for the donation to the Super Chat. I really appreciate it. If you guys want to donate to the Super Chat, you may do so as well. And you can also donate to the Patreon if you would like as well. I'll put a link to Agent Solo once again, but if you want to donate to the Patreon, you can donate to the Patreon as well. Supremo, why do so few go to 1 million subs? Well, the reason why so many go in the black sector of YouTube can never get to that level is because we have a crab in a bucket mentality in the black sector of YouTube, where when we see one person being successful, what happens is that they start getting jealous of that black man or that black woman, and then they go out and flag that person's channel, and then they have that person's channel taken down. And then what happens is that person has to start all over again. And then thank you, Hellcat Junkie, for the donation. I really appreciate it. What happens is that person has to start all over again. They have to let people on social media know. And thank you, Wrestling Superstar, for the donation as well. They have to let people know that they have a new channel. And a lot of the people who are watching the channel, what happens is they wind up missing out. And then we don't have other people who should have had the subs that they had, because people, they sub, they watch the show, and then what happens is the channels get flagged and taken down, and then we wind up with other channels not really coming up. Yeah, I know Advice Show is he went over 100,000 within 2 or 3 years, and now he's over 1 million. And I didn't know about Tyrone Magnus, but there were other guys who were that close. Mr. Superboy was at 250,000 at one time. And every time Professor Black Truth starts to come up, somebody tears his channel down. And it's something black people have to get together and start pushing back on, because Google and YouTube, again, a lot of these flaggers out here, a lot of these guys are trolls with zero subs and no content. And in some cases, we have YouTube's hired trusted flaggers who go out here and take channels down arbitrarily because they don't like the message or the content that people are producing. Meanwhile, they have, when you make a video talking about black empowerment, they want to take that channel down. Meanwhile, you could have a channel where there are fight videos, twerk videos, people making racial slurs. You can have white supremacists on here, and YouTube will do absolutely nothing about it. But when you start having black men talk about positive things that empower the black community, then they want to take those channels down. And then you have jealous black men and black women who see an intelligent brother who represents things that don't fit their narrative. What happens is they get angry at that person, and then they want to try to destroy that person's channel, all because they are presenting views that they really don't like. They present views of black life they don't like. And because that person is presenting a view of black life they don't like, they want to go out here and tear that person down. So you have a lot of these crab in a bucket people, and they go out here and destroy black people. Well, World Star Hip Hop, that's just a minstrel show. So people have no problem with that because all it does is present a lot of negative images of black people. So World Star, that's what racists and white nationalists love to see. They go over there and they get some free entertainment, and then they go over to YouTube to watch more free entertainment. So they want to see these gender war videos, this back and forth. But where does that take us in a decade? And that's the critical question I'm asking tonight to a lot of YouTubers out there and a lot of people out there is, where are you now in 10 years? And where do you see yourself in 10 years? And that's something we really need to think about. J87, yeah, these people who are jealous are worse than white supremacists because they destroy the ability of others to survive on YouTube and the ability for them, in some cases, to make a living on YouTube. So they take money out of their own community because every black YouTuber who is monetized, they are bringing money into the black community. They are bringing resources to the black community, and they are, in some cases, putting other black people to work. And I remember watching goth YouTubers when we had the adpocalypse. These were people who were building up the subculture and building up their economy by going out here, and they lost a revenue stream that really it hurt a lot of people in that scene. And the same thing happens in the black community. Whenever a channel is taken down, money gets taken out of the community. So we're not helping ourselves, we are hurting ourselves. And that's something black men and black women haven't thought about because, again, in 10 years, we could have taken this YouTube platform and built a black middle class on it. And we could have further expanded beyond YouTube eventually to the point where you could have had people using it as one revenue stream to build other revenue streams. And this is something black men and black women, they aren't really thinking about. All they are is getting on YouTube to vent their feelings, not focusing on YouTube as a business platform or a business tool. It's all about them. Well, there's a whole bunch of videos on black men working on cars, JKM 87. All you got to do is type in the model of car you want, and you might find, like I was looking at Monte Carlos from 87, 88, which is one of my favorite cars. And there are all sorts of guys working on cars. And there are all sorts of videos with guys working on cars. I mean, practically, you can find a way to fix anything on a car here on YouTube. And I've seen guys there were guys doing junkyard videos. And what do you want an answer for? But there are guys who are just they're using this platform and they are doing all sorts of stuff and they're helping people. I mean, I've learned PC repair from many guys who put up computer repair videos, and we need that type of content on the black sector of YouTube. So So we need that type of content on YouTube. And Reginald Brown Music, what type of question did you ask? What do you want an answer to? But we need that type of content because there are guys they're making all sorts of content here, making car videos, house repair videos. I mean, there's all sorts of stuff here. But on the black sector of YouTube, we're not focused on producing content that builds businesses or really shows people's passions for certain crafts. We're not really focusing on those kind of things. Instead, it's just beefing, going back and forth, all sorts of soap opera type drama, all sorts of dramatic tirades, and that's yep, that's right, David. Little thing, they're doing things that build people up. I see cooking videos, people just going out here and working on stuff, and they're working on things, but we're not getting that. I mean, again, you have a decade of YouTube, and all we have to show for it is just a whole bunch of negativity, and that thing we really need to think about overall because would you want to spend another 10 years on a social media platform going out and arguing with people when you could have taken that same energy, effort, and time to build something in that 10 years? I mean, again, in many of these companies, they ask the question, where do you see yourself 10 years from now? And I'm going to, before I wrap this up, ask that same question to many of my audience and many of the YouTubers out here. Where do you see yourself 10 years from now? Do you see yourself on this platform moving your life forward? Or do you see yourself in the same place that you are right now? And if you see yourself in the same place you are right now, that's deeply troubling because you should see yourself in another place 10 years from now. And most black YouTubers, you really need to yourself where yourself 10 years from now. For buying the books on Amazon. I really appreciate your support. I really appreciate everybody else's support. And I think everybody needs to really, again, think about where they're going to go in 10 years. And I want people to think about where they want to be in 10 years because you really have to think about where you want to be in 10 years, 5 years, 15 years. You really have to think about that. And I want you guys to think about that before you make another video or watch another video. Where do you want to be in 10 years? Because you don't want to waste a decade of, well, Reginald Brown, I timed you out. I thought you were trolling. I didn't know you were talking to someone. So I thought you were trolling because we had another troll in here. I'm sorry if it offended you, but the whole thing is we've had a problem with trolls starting stuff, but I'm going to get back to what I was my concluding topic, which was concluding statement, which was talking about this whole 10 years thing, because again, 10 years of your life should not come and go, and you're still in the same spot you were in when you started. You should be moving forward to where you want to move to next, and you should be in a place where you're setting goals to be someplace 10. Many of the black YouTubers, they're not really sitting there and thinking about where they are going to be in the next 10 years. And I want you guys to think about where you want to be in the next 10 years. Because when I make videos, I make them to improve the quality of life for brothers and sisters out here. And I want them to be in a better place 5 years from now, 10 years from now. And I want them to achieve success in the next 5 to 10 years, because a YouTube channel should be helping you improve your quality of life. The videos should be helping you get a better understanding of things, should be helping you learn more about things, and it should be helping you grow. And I want to help you grow when I make content. I don't want to just sit here and make, that's why I don't want to do beef videos or argument videos. I want you to learn and I want you to move forward. So when I make videos, I want you to be able to say, hey, I was able to learn something that moved me forward, and I'm in a better place 5 years from now or 10 years from now. So that's where you want for yourself. I'm going to wrap up the stream tonight. I want to thank everybody for coming to the stream. And I really want to get my fiction sales up. So I would really appreciate it if you were to pick up John Haynes' Dark on Amazon.com and Kindle formats. Isis, All That Glitters in paperback and Kindle formats. Esteem Goddess of in paperback and Kindle formats. And if you have Kindle Unlimited, you can pick up all of these books for free and read them for free with Kindle Unlimited. And I hope you give those books a try. I thank you all for coming to the stream, and I hope you'll be there for the next stream next week. Thank you, Wrestling Superstar. I hope you pick them up.